Right, it's time for us to start our meeting. So good evening everyone present here in today's discussion. I welcome you all for the 32, the Experts Talk webinar series. And just before I start my presentation, I need to share this in news with all the participants here. In 31 sessions so far, okay, which we have done the.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, actually, one of my teachers, she's just in the waiting room and she has not yet been granted the access, and she had registered.
Don't worry, they'll be given the access.
Sorry.
You need not worry about it. They'll be given the access. If they are waiting in the lobby, they'll be given the access. Yes. So in this 31 sessions, we have approximately covered 5,000 and plus participants who have witnessed our webinar series. And 31 sessions were held in just 25 days, where in the initial days of our webinar, we usually hosted around 3 to 4 sessions in a day. So yes, I thank you all for welcoming this approach, and your participation definitely will motivate and give us good approach where we can present you more and very different sessions from our side. So before we start. So first of all, today's topic, I would request all the participants to mute your microphones. Yes. Today's topic is investigative approach in question document cases, where the approach of a document examiner in a given case will be exclusively discussed in today's session. I am happy that there are many students as well as there are many industry professionals coming from the banking industry who are in the session today. So this session will be specifically focused on both the aspects of the banking as an industry as well as the students to know how the investigations are to be continued. So proceeding the yes.
अभी ईयरफोन लेके आना.
Okay, for those who have not attended the session in the earlier days from my side, so this slide is for you, where we need to spend some time in understanding what exactly we mean by forensics, where the forensics can easily be explained like numeric 4 and numeric 6, where the result is going to be 10. When I give the result as 1 and 0 in binary systems, 1 is always given a truth value and 0 is always given as a false value. So the scope of forensics is to ascertain if your claim is truth or if your claim is false. So while The forensic approach is to ascertain the question, if it is true or if it is to be false. Yes, this is the ultimate scope, and it's also a kind of limitation. Before we go ahead, I have a small question for you. On the screen, you can see a diagram. I want all of you to have a verification if line AE and line EC, which of these two lines is lengthier? For most of you, line AE will appear to be, a lengthier. For some of you, the line EC might appear to be lengthier. Just by looking at it, see, measurement is a different aspect, but just by looking at it, okay, you feel that line AE looks lengthier. However, when we are discussing about the line which is lengthier, AE or EC, without the help of any external tools, I would want all of you to just focus on this black dot. Okay, open up your arm straight. Okay, keep your index finger and just focus on the black dot on your screen and close your left eye. Close your left eye and focus on the black dot on the screen with your arm open like this. Freeze your hand. Now open your left eye and close your right eye. Open your left eye and close your right eye. For most of you, you feel that you are not actually focusing on the black dot. Okay, why I give this example is that yes, many of us feel what we see is correct, but strictly speaking, there are situations where what we see might be totally wrong, and what we see need to be further verified. So with this ground reality, so we are starting our session for the day. So before I start, I have one more scenario to share with you. See, one of the top businessmen of India was invited for a get-together party in US by a top businessman in US. Yes, this session is the world's costliest party ever hosted by any businessman in the world. While the get-together was happening, while the party was going on, the Indian businessman got very curious to know how did this US businessman became very rich. What made him so rich? Because he has never seen such a grand party ever in his life. So how could a businessman from US can host such a grand party? Was a very big question. So yes, he went and asked the US businessman, hey, how could you be so rich? Matlab, how do you get so much of money to host such a grand gathering? For which the US businessman said, get into my car. They both sat in the car went for a long drive and the car stopped. And the US businessman said, look at that flyover. Wow, it's a good flyover. So he says, I had a tender to construct that flyover, and officially, unofficially, whatever you call it as, I have actually taken 10% unofficially, so that this was something which made me so rich. The tender amount 10% unofficially or by committing a fraud. Okay, this has made me so rich. Wow, good idea. Few months later, the US businessman got an invitation, this time to attend a get-together party in India. When he actually came to India, he is not just surprised, but he's shocked to see that this time in India, he is witnessing the world's costliest party ever hosted by any businessman in the world. Right? I, being a US businessman earning 75 times costlier than Indian currency, if I could not host such a grand gathering, how can an ordinary Indian businessman could host it? Right? I should go and check with him. He went and asked the Indian businessman as to what made him so rich. Indian businessman said, get into my car. They both sat in the car went for a long drive, the car stopped. Indian businessman says, that flyover, and he's searching where the flyover is, and for which the Indian businessman says, look boss, 100% is mine unofficially, which means I had a tender to construct the flyover, which only exists on the paper today. On this reality, there exists no flyover at all, but as per the document is concerned, I can show that there exists a flyover. So this is the situation in most of our routine lives. Okay, if you look at some government scams, if you look at some public private limited companies scams, the document says everything paka, but in reality there might not be as such at all. So I mean, starting from Malia's case, Nirav Modi's case, whatever documents you talk about, there are a few contribution from the fraudulent document for the whole situation. So today's discussion is exclusively on such rare cases where we don't actually see the documents only with regard to the signatures. Signature is just one part of your document, but is only signature or only handwriting is the ultimate thing? That is a very big question to be answered in today's discussion. So while we are now proceeding with the session, we have a question before us: primary versus secondary. What is primary versus secondary? I mean to say is the secondary and primary assignments in a given case. Whenever the documents is sent to a laboratory or to an expert, the police officer or the court or the client will make a request asking the forensic document examiner to investigate a particular matter or report on these aspects, for which the document examiner will have to first consider examining that primary requirement, and subsequently can there be a scope of answering the secondary assignments. When I say secondary assignments, these are such assignments or the discussions which was not tend to be done by the client. Matlab, client will not ask you to do it, but can you still do it? That becomes a question. So examination and analysis is one phase where we need not just stop ourselves in just examining or just analysis, and we always have a scope to verify the secondary aspects of the given document. So it is very important for every one of us to realize that handwriting and signature are not the only two aspects of the document. When I say this, this is with a field practice, where in any given case, where in any given court case or even the banking or investigations of the insurance claims, people first focus on the signature. If the signature is that person's, then we have a case. That's what people usually tend to look at. But as I promised, this discussion will not just make you to look at the document only with regard to signature or the handwriting, but we have many such things to look at. So going forward, yes. So these primary and secondary assignments are usually those documents submitted by the client or the court or the police officer, police investigation officer, as to what needs to be done. Secondary is something which the document examiner will actually consider doing it in the interest of the given case or in the interest of reporting the facts. Because as document experts, we don't have any obligation to favor either of the parties. In most of the cases, the report given by the document experts or even the forensic experts for that matter in a large view need not or will not favor either of the parties. The one party has one claim, another party has another claim, but the fact might be totally different. So first of all, the forensic document examination is classified, or which is seen in today's practice, is more to do with signature handling cases. That is the first thing what they're going to question. Second thing, if there is any alterations, if there is any additions, material alterations is what they're going to check with it. This is the today's practice. Okay, this is topic of regular requirements, but there are many such topics which are not of regular requirement, which can be contributing for document genuinity or document fraudulency if you look at in a large sense. First of all, when we discuss about the documents, document is a piece of paper. First of all, see, document, what you can see is made up of pulp, okay, or a piece of paper. That is a basic document what we're discussing for today. Otherwise, any inscription can also be contributing for the paper. Any such surface on which the writing is found is first topic of discussion. So here, paper is one of the important factor for any document examiner. And with regarding the paper, the production process, especially the raw materials used to manufacture the paper, because papers have different generations of the raw materials being used. If you go to a stationery shop, if you want to purchase a white paper, you actually tend to get confused today because you have so much of options to buy a ordinary white paper. You have GSM 65 to 100 GSM papers. First thing. Second thing, bright white, ultra white, super bright. So all these things have a lot of options to choose. So paper has first of all the production process. Second thing is about the folds. When I say fold, was the paper first folded, then completed with the writing, or first the writing was there, then the paper was folded? So this might not be a very broad topic to discuss, but this becomes critically important in certain cases. Okay, because if you don't know what to question, you will not know how to get the justice. Everything looks, as per the evidence, everything might look, intact. But when you start questioning the genuinity, when you start questioning their credibility, this things becomes very important for you to understand as to how you can question about paper. Second, we have a question about the writing instrument. Writing instrument will be of significance where any document is claimed to be signed on a same day. Because if you sign any agreements, if you sign multiple sheets on the same day, first of all, in general common sense, all the sheets should have the same pen being used if you have signed the documents at the same time. If in case there is one particular paper which doesn't actually have the pen which was used to sign the other sheets, doesn't it amount to suspicious factor? This is a suspicious factor, though it need not effectively conclude it's a forgery or it's a fraudulent or it's a suspicious concocted document. It only gives you a red flag as to what's next. Okay, so these aspects are going to be discussed with regarding the writing instrument. And with regard to the writing instrument, the common problem what we face today is about the age of the document, age of the ink. Age of the ink has two things to understand. There is always a question about the scientific plausibility and the legal admissibility. When we discuss about the legal admissibility, there are different things to discuss, because as per one of the Supreme Court judgment, the Madras Court as well as one of the Supreme Court judgment says no reliance can be given on age of the ink analysis. If this question is posed to any forensic expert, they'll say, Are, using some chemical techniques, including if the ink is of carbon, then the carbon dating method. And today we use GC and HPLC, all these things. There is a possibility to ascertain the approximate age of the ink. However, the absolute age of the ink cannot be examined or reported. That's a challenge by itself. But approximate age of the ink, if it can be reported. So how does the court admits this as a evidence? So this court has the view to say that the Supreme Court has held that no reliance can be given on age of the ink analysis, for the reason in India we don't have a ink library to have a reference ink sample. If in case I have an ink which is being examined and that ink is said to be of 1970, for example, I need to have the spectra or the chemical characteristics of that ink which is known to be in 1970, so that I use that ink with the questioned ink to say if both are similar or common. So since we don't have the ink library in India, so this age of the ink analysis is not possible. This is one thing. However, if this is acting as a limitation, is it like nobody can report on age of the ink analysis? If this is a question, I have an answer for this during a discussion along with the case studies. I'm going to submit this for the entire audience here. Third, regarding the writing instrument and ink, both are very, very important, which we just now discussed. There is a chemical configurations, age significance, and sequence of strokes. Sequence of strokes, yes, what was first written, what was written after that. This becomes very important with regarding the ink analysis. Next, typewriters, rubber stamps, and printer examination. In a given set of documents, say for example, you have 10 sheets of documents. If all 10 sheets are typed using the same typewriter, or if all 10 sheets has the same rubber stamp of the respective authority, or if all 10 sheets are printed using the same printer, see there might be chances where a different typewriter was used for one of the sheet because it had too many corrections permitted. One of the sheet was having too many corrections. That's why a new sheet was actually inserted because they don't wanted to have a lot of corrected the paper in between. Yes, admitted. But in spite of giving a reasonable scope for admission of this different typewriter, different printer being used, yet there is a scope for examination of the typewriter, rubber stamp and printers in the given set of document, and these things act as a corroborative evidence for the whole case. It might not see just because you say this one sheet having a different typewriter, when we compare this to other 10 sheets, this alone is not an evidence. This alone need not be even considered. But addition to this being reported, if there are additional things you have reported about alteration or content or signature or the ink, whatever we are discussing in the session today. So all those things put together will actually give a very strong reason for the presiding officer or the judge, okay, to have a reliance upon your report. Otherwise, your report is just going to be a piece of paper which may or may not be considered as a evidence before the court. Next, security features of the document. This is exclusively to be used for loan purpose, and in the property documents, property papers, this acts as a very important piece of understanding. If the stamp papers are genuine, if in case the security features are found in the paper or not. So this aspects in total, if you put all these things in a bucket, all these things individually will have a lot of significance for the document being considered as a genuine document or as a fraudulent document. So going forward, yes, when we look at a document having a fraudulent ink or suspicious ink or a suspicious sequence of paper folds, yeah, you reported about this right now, but the question is, what's next? How do you actually proceed? Because you have a primary requirement in front of you, where you are asked to examine the signature in the given case, if it is authored by the same person or not. But apart from signature, you found that this particular signature, which is suspected to be forged, is actually signed using a new ink, which is not appearing in any of the other sheets. So what do you do now? So what's next is a big question before us. So in this session, yes, I have a possible answer to give you as to what's next. Yes. So on the screen, you are seeing a particular piece of content where the ink, the signature ink is also shown along with the printed content. Is there anything suspicious in this particular image? Does anybody want to answer this? Anything suspicious in the given?
Yes,
But the
sir.
side
Yes, sir.
after
It
the
looks
ink
like
line has
the
been
printing
moved.
has been done above the signature.
Printing is done above the signature, which actually means signature is signed before the printing was
Yes,
there,
sir.
which also implies, okay, that the signature could have been obtained on a blank paper. Post taking the signature on a blank paper, the content would have been developed. And we should also know that under section 20 of Negotiable Instruments Act, Section 20 of Negotiable Instrument Act says, if in case you have signed a partially filled document or a completely blank document, you are giving a prima facie authority for the receiver to write whatever they want. This is first of all, this is an act of negligence. That means you are giving the blank document signed with that authority to the receiver, go write whatever you want. It is just like giving a blank check. If I sign a blank check and give it to you, That means you write whatever the amount you want, I am okay with that. That is the confidence I am giving it to you. Similar to this actually comes under the Negotiable Instrument Act terminology, where if in case you sign a signature on a blank paper or a partially filled document, after you sign, anybody can fill anything, and that is a provision as per the law. For this reason, in 138 cases, when I say 138, Negotiable Instruments Act, Section 138 amounts to check bounce cases, checks not being honored. In such cases, the first question which should be ascertained in a given case is the check has the signatory of the account holder or not. If in case the party is able to prove, yes, signature is signed by the same account holder, that is the first step ahead, which doesn't mean he's going to win the case. Unless or otherwise, the party proves the fraud in this. When I say fraud, yes, I'm going to sign a check because I don't have a time. I say I owe you 50,000 rupees because I don't have time right now. I sign the check, I write 50,000 rupees and deposit in the check. But instead of writing 50,000 rupees, you actually wrote 5 lakhs. And today I'm asking you a question, how much I owe you? You say that I owe you 5 lakhs, for which you have to produce the documents, you have to produce the proof, you have to produce the necessary justifications to say I actually owe you a amount of 5 lakhs. But whereas I will be able to prove I only took 50,000 rupees from him that day, and I gave him the check with the confidence that he's only going to use this check for 50,000 rupees. If I am able to prove this, yes, that amounts to fraud, and proving that there is a fraud is a burden on the account holder. Okay, so when we come with this legal history or legal statutory provisions, it is now important for us to understand how does the signature on a given document have a validity, or how that can be nullified. When we are discussing about this, first of all, I'm going to show you the cases of signature forgery, but yet I'm not going to spend too much of time on signature forgery because most commonly committed fraud is a signature forgery. But the way in which the signature forgery is committed in the cases today I'm showing it to you is very significant to understand the aspect of how a forgery can be obtained. There are different categories of forgeries. So this is one particular category which I'm going to show it in today's section. On the screen, you can see a particular document, which is a court marked document and sent from the court. In this case, the challenge before the investigation or the question which was asked to us is to examine the signature of this signatory. I know most of you don't understand or read Kannada here. The text is not a significance here. Just look at that the blue ink. Okay, here the blue ink which you can see where my cursor is. Okay, is a signature which is in Kannada vernacular. Even there is a second document which also has a signature in blue ink of the same signatory. But unfortunately, at the time of submission of this document, the signatory is not alive. She is dead. For the comparison purpose, the document which was submitted to us, you can see on the lower part of the screen, there are two signatures which actually belong to the income tax returns documents of this particular individual. Fine, if in case I had to consider that these lower two signatures are signed by the said signatory, even the signatures which are on the lower part of the screen, those two are not signed by the same person. Either of these two might be the actual signature of the person who is no more and whose signature is now disputed. Since the person is no more and since it's found on an official document, you can actually pose a question as to how can in the income tax returns document a signature can be forged. Possibly yes, if in case you file all the signatures, you give it to your accountant or an auditor or his juniors, whatever it is, or any officer at the income tax department itself. So when they see there is no signature in this document, a signature is missing, instead of they coming all the way to you and take your signature or just redoing the document just because there is a signature, instead anybody would have just write the name Amrutamma, which the name reads here, and to process the document. But unfortunately, that document today has become the official document in which it is said that this signature is to be belonging to the signatory, where we know that those two signatures are actually signed by two different individuals. Fine, this is the challenge right now. But how do we do the investigation? Can we consider these two signatures, which are also photocopied documents? We don't have the original documents also in this case. Matlab, the known signatures of the signatory are not given to us from the original documents because they don't have it and the person is no more. Only the disputed document is sent as a original document. So for this reason, when we look at the document, yes, there is a challenge. We cannot effectively give a conclusion. But fortunately, if you look at the magnified image of this signature, I want you to stay focused on the screen, especially focus on the initial on this part where my cursor is showing to you. There is a kind of tail to the particular character. And when you carefully look at the whole signature, this signature is a result of a traced forgery, where by having another signature, keeping the signature on this document, they have with extra pressure traced that signature, and this document has got an outline indentation of that signature, after which they have taken a pen, carefully written the name, carefully written every character from the model what they have obtained. But there are few places where the ink is not there, but only the indentation is present. If you can look at this part, which is where my cursor is present, that is the first part. And second thing, you can see at this part, the terminal part of this character, where the indentation is present, but the ink is not present. Okay, but as a whole signature, the signature outline has a kind of white texture. This white texture is nothing but the indentation, because the indentation mark has a different strength than the ink what they have used. Apart from the signature having the tremors and even pen pressure in the whole approach, the indentation mark in this case is a very important feature to report that this signature is a result of traced forgery. Because in this case there were two signatures, one on the front side, one on the second side. When both of these two signatures were kept on one another, those two had the same mathematical similarities. In such cases, we don't even require a model signature of the person. Even without having the signature for the reference, when we say any two signatures are exactly same with regarding the mathematical similarities, first we conclude one of it is forged. But unfortunately or fortunately in this case, both the signatures were reported to be because of the forgery, because of the indentation marks present across the whole signature. This is the first case. Second, if you look at the signature, is the signature genuine or do you suspect this signature? Is there any reason to suspect the signature?
Yes.
What is the reason?
Tremors
The
are there,
lines
sir.
are not connected. They are pen lips.
So there are tremors on the signature.
Okay, tremors are there.
So they have doubly done the R.
So there is no
R
continuity in the
Tracing,
signature,
retracing
Yeah,
is
sir.
there's no
It is not
continuity.
in
So
one
there
single
are,
motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can consolidate the whole approach, you are able to see
there is no
tremors as a
connectivity.
first indicator. Second thing, the whole signature is not continuously executed. Third, it is executed part by part. So there are multiple pen lift is what people had to observe. Yes, but one of the principle of forensic examination is that things are not seen unless it is looked for. If you don't look what is there, it is not seen usually. Okay, it is all your competency as to what you want to see in the signature. If you carefully observe,
So there is a
this part,
carbon mark.
it is not carbon, it is just a pencil mark.
Sorry,
The
sir, I stand
outline-
corrected.
Yeah, the outline is obtained with a pencil sketch. Carbon is very difficult to be taken out of the document. So for which the fraudsters often don't use carbon as one of the reason for the outline. They use the tracing paper, they use a pencil, or sometimes they use the indentation marks. Okay, this is found in majority of the cases, but yet there might be some amateur fraudsters who will use the carbon and they get caught very easily. That's a different thing. But in this case, if you look at the primary assignment, if this signature is forged or not, yes, in this case we had reference samples of the signatory. We were able to say because there are pen pauses, pen lifts, and tremors present. While compared this with the known signature, we have good reasons to believe in this. Apart from this, okay, if you look at the same signature with a different lighting condition, because for forensic examination, the infrastructure or the apparatus you use makes a lot of difference. There are many who think just because it's just a simple signature examination, I find tremor, I find pen lift, that's a conclusion of the forgery. No, you're wrong. You need not have such confidence when you have that magnifier. People think just a magnifier is sufficient. Okay, a 10x magnification or a 4x magnifier, handheld magnifier. I've seen even the senior experts today, okay, who have just read upon the magnifier to give the conclusions. Totally wrong. Okay, I don't criticize their practice, but what they have done right is right. What they have done wrong is wrong. Okay, keeping that discussion apart. If you find in the screen here, I have marked 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects. Okay, are you able to find point number 1 appearing at 2 places? One which is inked, another where you only have the mark. Because to commit this forgery, the fraudster has done a lot of practice before he committed the forgery on this sheet. Okay, he has used other sheets to practice before he committed the forgery, and that practice has given the indentation on this document itself. When you find point number 1, the length of this stroke, point number 1, is as equal as the indentation what we can find here. Point number 2, the distance between this point and that point, what we have shown, is as same as point number 2 distance what we have shown on the right side. So all 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects has the same mathematical similarity, which means the right side indentation mark was nothing but the result of the practice what the person has done before he inked that signature, what has been disputed right now. See, whether the person gets caught easily or not, that's different. But to prove that this case was genuine or this case was fraudulent itself will take 6 to 8 years time in most of the cases. It's not just about signature being forged or not. It's about the number of years the case will be active, even if you want to prove your document is genuine or even if you want to prove your case is genuine. So for which the approach which you take should be very much strong enough, even for any person who would have been biased, who would actually want to support the other party, should find it difficult because of the findings what you have reported in the final conclusion. Yes. If you look at the screen, is there anything suspicious you can find?
Carbon copy or
Okay.
The stamp, the last stamp below, it has been cut. There's a mark out there.
It has been cut probably because it is at the edge of the paper. It might be a genuine cut. Matlab, they don't have space. That's why the impression was not given completely. That's not a conclusion factor for the document being fraudulent. It might be suspicious factor. Yes, next. Fine. In this case, the question, which color? Yes,
black.
Which color? What do you want to suspect in this case?
That handwriting part, that black and blue.
Okay, handwriting part black and blue is genuine because there is the signatories or the witnesses for this particular transaction. Okay, so which they have, whatever the ink they have with them, they're going to sign it. So presence of multiple inks which belong to different signatories is not a factor to be questioned in any given case. I might use my lucky ink, you might use your lucky ink. However, this case, the question was about the signatures, if they have signed or not. When you look at the document, similar to what I just shared with you in the previous case, the indentation forgery, you can see the complete signature having a kind of white border, okay, kind of white shadow effect. That is because of the indentation mark being present and ink was not exactly put inside the indentation mark. This is the and you can also find there is a dot inside this. They have forgotten to ink this dot. In spite of them marking this dot for signature, they have not put a dot over there. But these things are not found unless you start looking at it. When I say looking at it, it is not just prima facie looking at the document. As a structure, as a protocol, every document needs to be examined under different magnifications, but and also with the different lighting conditions. That's very, very important, because unless and until you do that, you will not know what is the fact of the given case. It is not handwriting examination or signature examination is not just a matter of magnifier examination. No. Yes. I think this case I have shared in many of the discussions, but it is very important to understand the different aspects to look at of a given case. This case, the handwriting actually is of the demised person. The person is no more, but the person has written the complete death note on her hand before she said to be committing suicide. And this was a question, if in case this person can write such a lengthy suicide note on her hand when she is about to die. Okay, and yes, as a first point of understanding, yes, she was a right-handed person and the writing is appearing on the left hand. Nothing suspicious about it. When we look at the whole writing, the question arises. So it is not just about examination and reporting, it's about the investigation. The first aspect to understand in this case, we are provided with certain writing samples to compare if this writing sample belonged to the girl or not. But unfortunately, it was not of the girl's handwriting which we reported. But how can there be other person writing it? Before I question that, I am giving a possibility of this content being written on this particular forearm, arm or forearm. Because if in case you want to write on your hand, and if you want to maintain a steady baseline, if you want to write straight, if you open your hand and start writing it, can you really write so straight as you can see on the screen? It's not possible. It's highly difficult. And for a person who is in the mindset of committing a suicide, will have no patience there, first of all. Second thing, yes, you can, with all the efforts, you can actually try to maintain a steady baseline, okay, with all your efforts. By holding your hand so close, writing one character by character, maintaining a steady baseline, yes, possible. But if you're holding the hand so close to your body, how could anyone write to the lower part? The lower part cannot be reached when the body, the hand is approached to the body. So either it is to be open, where the baseline cannot be even, it is to be closed, baseline can be even, but this part of the writing, this part of the hand cannot be written. So first thing. Second, if in case, yes, they have taken extra efforts to close the hand to the body, wrote every single line carefully, everything is done. But when they have done this, when the hand is open like this, the skin should look stretched, because skin will actually compress and enlarge. When you open and close, skin actually has this effect. So when you open the hand, the writing should look slightly expanded, which is not found in this particular writing. This was an additional observation to say this writing does not belong to this girl, and there is no possibility of a person writing so much like this. Apart from we saying that the writing does not belong to this girl and it actually belongs to her brother. She committed suicide, no doubt, but the brother also knew the reason she committed suicide, because of dowry harassment, whatever the possibility is, but with a common understanding that the creation of the evidence or destroying of an evidence, both are equal crime. So here we are seeing the creation of the evidence, which is not correct. So for that reason, yes, the writing need not only be looked at about the authorship, we should also look at the possibility of the writing on such surfaces. In most of the banking and insurance cases, what the costly mistake people would usually do is that they only want to contest the whole case based on the signatures in the given document or not. But you people actually forget that the entire form might have several places where the person would have written something, the content, their name, their address, their phone numbers, their email addresses, whatever. They usually have a space to write. But in certain situations where your executives are helping the person to fill the form, in such cases, yes, we have a challenge. But otherwise, we should encourage the applicant to fill the form from their own hand, because numerics and linguistics has a very important aspect to investigate. In this case, the question is about this small slip in the rural limits. This pawnbroker was engaged to design a gold chain. The client has paid X amount of money, where he shows in this particular slip as to what amount he has paid, how much grams the gold should be, or what is the design, whatever. And one fine day, the pawnbroker says, you have paid no money to me. This slip is not given by me. So what is the slip? I don't know. So he denies this slip one fine day. This is the second slip which he denies, and for which the case was filed. So when we were actually asked we were actually given the writing sample, which is just 2-3 lines of the writing sample, and for which we requested back to the court to give us sufficient writing samples, and we are going to be coming to the court personally to collect the writing samples from the particular accused. The court permitted that. When we go to the court, this person says, I'm an illiterate, I don't know reading and writing, so you cannot expect more to write from my side. Okay, fine. We actually gave him a particular script to write, which he tried copying it. And as document experts or the people of forensic fraternity, we know copying is the worst possible thing one should be allowing the person to do it. In spite of that, because to give him some kind of comfortness, okay, we actually gave him that content to copy. First time he did that, but he never knew to what extent we were prepared with. Once he wrote, he was very happy, fine, and we said, boss, take a break. We'll take the writing sample once again. Okay, so he gives a second writing sample, fine. But the second time we also said, yes, relax, take rest, we are going to take another writing sample. The advocate started creating trouble. He said, how many writing samples you are looking for? One sheet is given, second sheet is given, why do you want more number of sheets? He said, boss, it's up to us. We'll collect as many number of samples as we require, so please stay away from this. So that is the right of a document examiner who is commissioned by the court, and you are the officer to the court. And as a commissioner to the court, I have all the flexibility to ask before the court as to what I require to conduct the examination. And in this case, we collected approximately 14 sheets of handwriting. As and when he actually wrote the writing sample, he put all his efforts to keep changing his writing sample. We kept on requesting samples. He actually gave us 14 sheets of writing sample, and we actually give the content dictated like this. And you should also observe this particular slip is something which you usually get in stationery shops as a receipt book or cash book, cash receipts. So similarly, we also obtained one cash receipt book where the contents are very much similar. The tables are very, very similar. Okay, and the principle of forensic examination says likes with likes. Wherever possible, should use a similar pen, similar paper, similar surface. Everything should be given as you can find in the question sample. That is very, very important. And I say wherever possible. In certain situations, there might not be any possibility. Go with the situation, but wherever possible, insist on likes with likes samples. So here, when we started dictating to him, yes, you can see a lot of rigidness from his sample. He tried to change his writing size, going big and writing kind of amateur writing. When we kept on asking the samples and samples, he kept on giving us a writing sample. And as a principle of handling examination, disguise is rarely consistent. More and more you ask the person to write, the tendency of disguise will start reducing because the person will not know what he tried to change in the previous sample. Okay, if you look at, I want to show you the report part of this case. Yes. If you look at the screen, not just the numerics or the content we were able to find. In this case, the linguistics or the command over the language what this person had played a very crucial role for us. So here, after he takes the money, he writes what is the due amount to be paid by the person. So the word he uses, due, you can find he uses DEU, due. Okay, he would have seen a lot of Mountain Dew advertisement. Okay, so he feels dew is DEW, but actually DUE is the actual term, dew. But whereas he uses DEW, on the left side is what you can find a requested sample. On the right side is what you can find as a disputed sample. So in addition to the dew language, the linguistics being similar in this case, okay, there were many such instances where the writing characteristics were similar in this case. The question is not just about the writing similarities, it is also about numerics. How one will execute the numerics also plays a very important role. So for this reason, numerics and linguistics are also very, very important aspects of your document investigation. This is another case of, in the whole document there were no writing at all except for the numerics. So when I say writing verification, it is anything which is written. We don't classify that as English writing, Kannada writing, Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, whatever. No, writing is writing, and most of the principles of handling examination can be applied for anything which is written. It might be numerics, it might be block letters, it might even be punctuations. This document what you're seeing is a tender document. The whole bundle of the document only had these numbers to be filled in. This case was about if in case the same person applied in different company names with the tender. So yes, the answer was correct because in this case we only had the writing sample, which is the numerics. Numerics were compared with the numerics, and yes, we will still be able to say all the numerics in different documents belonging to different companies are written by the same person. Yeah, on the screen you are seeing a document which is called letter of credit. It is called LC in banking terms, and if you find the value of respective sheets, one document is 9 crores 62 lakhs and another document is 7 crores 15 lakhs. This case in total was a scam of around 28 crores. And this case belonged to a town, not even a city. This is a town actually. When a letter of credit is issued, if you look at the signatures on the lower part of it, there are two signatures of the banking authority. Okay, so that means this letter is to be attested and signed by two different officers of the same bank. When this document was submitted to another bank to withdraw this or to honor this particular letter of credit, the bank said that this particular signature of one of the officer is forged. For that reason, we cannot honor this document. You can see the magnified image. Yes, you can see on the top, I have given you a magnified image of the signatures, where out of two signatories of the bankers, one of the signature of the bank manager is forged. So which signature is actually forged?
Second one.
Second one. See, we have
one.
We have three images here. image number 1, where my cursor is right now, image number 2, which is on where my cursor is right now, and lower part is image number 3. Okay, out of the image number 1 and 2, which of these two officers' signatures are forged?
First one.
Okay, you find this as a forged one, yes?
Yes.
Just for the naked eye, that looks so suspicious. And do you
First one is forged.
Correct. So do you expect the banker to honor this particular document for a value of 28 crores? And if you are the person who is the receiving end, what would be your situation? You are losing 28 crores because the document is forged. That is the end of it, isn't it? But see, in this case, when the banker submitted a case to us, yes, it was only asked if the signature of the officer is forged or not. If in case I report, yes, it is forged only. So what's next? What's the fun in that? In this case, we need to also understand, we reported that the rubber stamp impression of the signature, which is forged. On the left side, you can see the cursor mark right now. The rubber stamp impression, which reads for Canara Bank and officer, manager, senior manager, whatever it is, that impression in the known document as well as in the questioned document was the same. So what does it now indicate? Signature is forged, I also agree, but since the rubber stamp in both question and known document is the same, so what does it indicate now?
It has done by someone who belongs to
Can you please repeat that? Your sound was muted.
or
Yes, yes, your answer is correct. I'll repeat my question first. So, in case for the receiving side, if in case the signature is forged, yes, that's the end of it. But the signature is forged and the rubber stamps which are used in the known document as well as in the questioned document are from the same source, which actually means the fraud is committed from one of the person who is inside the banker, because the other bank manager's signature is not disputed, it's not forged, that is genuine. So when one of the officer has signed, when other officers seal belong to the same source, and if only his signature is forged, this case was initiated for further inquiry as to who inside this bank committed this forgery, and it was caught, and this case was adjudicated in the banking tribunal, and the receiving bank got the benefit of it. So if in case we had only to report it about the signature forgery, that's the end of it. Going forward, the signature, apart from signature, rubber stamp is similar in this case. Because rubber stamp is similar, we were able to narrow down where exactly the fraud was committed, and the receiving bank did not lose even a single rupee from this whole transaction of letter of credit. Yes, out of the signatures on the screen, do you find anything suspicious? Anyone finds the signature on the screen suspicious? For any reason?
So the second picture on the above side seems to be just a spurious of the spurious imitation.
Okay.
So the third one, gooping is there. The ink. Gooping.
Okay.
The profession of ink.
Okay. So that's a good observation, but yet this
Sir,
gooping.
apart from
also
strokes are different. In the slant,
hers also.
the way it's been
Hers,
written, the
hers.
slant is different.
All right. So when I consolidate all the answers given by you, yes, your observations are correct, but the same observations does not effectively conclude that this case the signatures are forged, because the presence of this gooping of the ink is because of the nature of pen what they have used. If in case you use a gel pen or a poor quality ball pen, wherever there is a change in the direction of your writing, it creates a ink blob. Okay, so for as a matter of fact, if you just look at the signatures on the screen, none of the signatures are forged at all. But the signatures which are on the right side, two signatures, are actually not signed by the ink. It is the cut and copy of the signature. On the left side, you are seeing the ink which is signed by a black ink. On the right side, you are seeing a black printed signature which is not signed using a ink pen at all. But to look at, if you look at these signatures in a given document, you will never question about the signature genuinity at all, because it belongs to a sub-registrar who is a public authority and his signature is very much similar in all the four. Yes, it is genuine. That's what people have concluded in this case. What I'm showing you is a genuine a transaction document, but which was questioned later on. When you look at the document, you will not just be able to see that. When the question arises about the document being fraudulent, when the investigation was conducted, this fact was reported. Addition to this, if you look at the signature, if you look at the rubber stamp, okay, for those who can read the Kannada here, okay, all the three rubber stamps belonging to the sub-registrar. He is a sub-registrar's signature which is questioned in this. Okay, all the three impressions which were found in the same set of documents. Suppose I have 10 sheets of document which I am putting my rubber stamp in every sheet. Why would I use 3 different rubber stamp impressions? I am going to use one rubber stamp impression, ink it, seal it for 10 times, 12 times for a single set of documents. Why there should be a need for me to use more than one rubber stamp in one given document? And in this document, apart from the signature of the rubber stamp, the sub-register being printed, we were able to report that there are more than one source of rubber stamp impression which is used in the whole set of documents. This is a corroboration. Just because the signature of the rubber stamp impressions are different, it doesn't conclude anything. In addition to this, signatures are here are printed, not signed. Yes, we have a reason there. So everything put together becomes very strong evidence. And if you look at the calculation, see, because we are doing a scientific examination and science means having certain values. Okay, if you look at the examination of rubber stamp impressions, the line by line or the word by word, every characters are measured to give this final conclusion as if there were more than one source, actually 3 different sources of rubber stamp impressions, not just because it is having this red indicated characteristics, not just that, even with the measurements, all these characters were totally different. Okay, that is the value scientifically one can attach to the given case. Yeah. Now we're touching upon the financial frauds, where we're discussing about forgery, color photocopies, fabrications, and alterations. If you look at the left-hand document, and for all the bankers here, this is a first document of any property, which is a allocation letter or the possession certificate. And when the certificate was submitted to us, after getting suspiciousness about this document, because it was laminated, and most of the bankers today do not give a loan for those documents which are laminated, because they actually are scared if the color photocopied documents are laminated, so much so we are not able to see the characteristics of an original document. That is a threat, and the bankers don't actually give a loan for the property papers which are laminated. They actually ask people to delaminate it. That's a different challenge altogether. Ultimately, this was a laminated document, and since the banker sent this document to us when the examination was conducted, and I'm going to show the video on the screen. Carefully observe this. Okay. What we can see on the screen is one of the content which is written here, where you're also able to find color stains in the background. So what actually the color stains indicate is that this document is a result of color photocopy. But when you observe the ink is genuine ink, which is the original ink. In 1972, when this document was said to be issued, 1975, sorry, it was 1972 actually. Yes, 1972. In 1972, we did not have color printer at all. But how can this document claiming to be of 1972 can have the ink color stains? And how can only the content which is written has the original ink? When we look at it, what they have done. Yes, if you look at it, it's a chemical characteristic of the ink. It is not, if the blue color content here is a result of color photocopy, you will be able to see different color stains in the blue color content only. Okay, in the blue color content, it is a chemical configuration which is also verified by different lighting condition under UV as well as under IR. If it is a toner ink under IR, it will not be transparent. Only if it is a chemical ink, it will be transparent. And one of the characteristics of this particular color printer was to give a black outline for different colors. If you look at the whole content here, it has a black outline. This was the mechanical defect of the printer, color printer. When this was understood that yes, there might be certain suspiciousness, then we looked at the and just to verify, okay, the blue color content is genuine, but all other content are printed. And what you are seeing right now is the signature of the issuing authority, who is the Tahsildar. You can see the signature on the lower part of the document here with my cursor. This particular signature, when it was under microscope examined, you can see the similar black color stains as an outline, which actually indicate that this particular content is also the result of color photocopy. In other blue color ink, okay, the black outline was not present. See, this is genuine blue color ink. UV, IR. If it is a toner ink, it will be visible. If it is a chemical based ink, it goes transparent under IR. Where this particular thing, you can see the clear-cut black outline under IR lighting conditions. You can see this. The complete signature of the Tahsildar has got a black outline, which is a clear-cut and concluding fact that except for the handwritten content in the given document, every other thing is a result of color photocopy. And based on this document, they would have created n number of title deeds which would have been transferred. And one of such document has come to the banker today for the purpose of loan. And because they want to give the loan, while they are verifying this particular document, this was reported by us saying that the title, the first document of this property itself is fraudulent. And in this case, banker did not give the loan. That's a different thing. But what if somebody buys this property? Okay, that risk is different. Many people think just because the property has a bank loan, the loan is secured. No, don't just blindly assume. Bankers' scrutinization of the document is on a different level than the forensic approach of examination. Okay. This is another case of laminated document. Okay, where you can clearly understand that the lamination is present, and yet it is a color photocopy. Presence of different color stains is an indicator of the document being printed using the color printer. Even if the content is black, which is printed from the source, the output will not just be the black. The output will have all the color stains, which is in the color printer. To the naked eye, it looks black. On the left hand side, you can see the document. To the naked eye, the entire content looks black. But in the microscopic examination, black is not just the black. It will contain different color stains, which is in the color printer. Yes. Going forward. See, when we are discussing about what's next, this was one important case where the banker came to me with a question. If in case this writing of the name, okay, has any mechanical or manual corrections or not. Because this case, the check was already passed. Check of 3,18,000 was already passed, and because the check was passed on a subsequent date, the claim was made by the actual person that I have not received my check. Then the company said your check has been issued and you have also taken the money. And the other person says I have never received the money. So when this was contested, the bank manager came to me because this check should not have been passed because there was a manual correction in this. So, but when because of the negligence of the bankers, the check was passed, and this check was presented after 3 days of bank holiday, and the 4th day when the bank reopens, they have 100 different checks to clear in a very short span. Okay, so in that stress, in that work pressure, could have been done a mistake which a banker also understands today. But just because banker want me to report if there is any manual entry which is corrected or not, how does it actually solve the case? So I actually said what was actually written in this. He said Sandeep Sharma is now which is being seen, but the company claims the check was given for check was given in the name of Simpy Jha. If you observe, the word Simpy, Simpy, is actually altered as Sandeep. Okay, if you look at the possibility, yes, there is a possibility of writing Simpy, Simpy, and that to be made as Sandeep Sharma. And when we look at the whole case, Simpy Jha, JHA, where RMA is now considered as the suspicious or added content which is to be investigated now. Sandeep Jha, Simpy Jha, till that phase, the document is genuine. But I took time from the banker to give me a couple of days time to look at the whole case before I give you a solution for this. Fine. See, we reported that there is a mechanical or material alteration, but apart from that, I also went on to investigate the content. If it is written by RMA, is also written by the person who created this check, and this was an organized scam where the person in the company writes a check, okay, and courier the check to a wrong address intentionally, and he himself goes there, collect the consignment, alters the check, okay, present the check to the bank in the name of Sandeep Sharma, withdraws the money, and there exists a person called Sandeep Sharma. He is a construction worker. He is illiterate. This banker happened to promise this worker that bank has given you some government scheme for which you have to open a bank account. And he opens the bank account in his name, and subsequent to that bank account, he puts this check, withdraws the money, gives some money to this guy, asks him to go back to his native where he cannot be traced anymore. Okay, this was the situation. But until and unless we reported that the writing RMA is also the author of the wordings 3,18,179 only, this case was on the heads of the banker. And based on our report, I recommended banker to go file a police complaint on a forgery and cheating case, which they did. And subsequent to the investigation, they found, yes, this was the case who was an insider who committed this fraud. If in case we had to only answer the primary question in this case, banker had to pay 3,18,000 from his pocket. And 3,18,000, it's not just about the money. Banker would also lose promotions, increment, a lot of things gets affected, and this is going to be black mark for his career. Okay, so it's not just about primary assignment, it's also about what apart from this you can actually do in this given case. If you look at the screen, I have shown you two different images. My question to you is, if the document shown here, okay, the first image, is it the photocopy of the second image? If the first image, the photocopy of the second image.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It looks very
That
similar, right?
buy cash, that
Yes,
piece
sir. It is a
was
photocopy,
similar.
sir.
Left.
Yes. Hold on. Whatever the mistake was committed, okay, in this case, is that the banker announced the loan for those who had a transaction of 1 lakh in the previous year are eligible to take the loan. And this farmer never had a transaction of anything more than few thousands in his account, and for which the executive of the bank, okay, helped the farmer to get a loan. How? He asked the farmer to get his passbook, original passbook, where the last 2 entries dated 10th September 2011 and 12th September 2011 were not there. Okay, and these 2 entries were never there, and the original checkbook, original passbook was given to the executive. What he did, he first took a photocopy, and in the photocopied document, he wrote by cash dated 10th and another entry cash dated 12th, wrote all the entries over there, and again photocopied that document and filed in a application form that actually looked like a photocopy of the original passbook. But after a few months, when the farmer who took the loan became a defaulter, the investigation started. When the investigation started, because the executive wanted to save himself, he went back to the farmer, took the original passbook, and wrote the last 2 entries over there. Just to show, I have taken a photocopy and this is the original, this is the photocopy karke. And if you look at the last 2 entries, they are not the same writing. That means the first image here, which is the photocopy, is not the actual photocopy of the original passbook. Okay, so to rely upon on a photocopied document is highly risky for any bank. You have to have an original document in front of you. For after due diligence, you can take the photocopy. So which most of the bankers are doing these days, but yet some bankers, they do as a formality. Okay, original document, हाँ ले लो बस हो गया, 21 सेकेंड में उसका वेरिफिकेशन हो जाता है. That is a risky process because the original documents are sought for further scrutinization. They have to hold the original document, photocopy document, compare if the photocopy is the actual copy of the original document or not before they proceed ahead. Okay, fraud using technology. You can see the signature on the front side here. Okay, and the signature on the rear side. I think I discussed this case in the signature verification training program. Okay, but yet using technology, a lot of fraud can be committed these days. One of which is called transplanted forgery, where the signature from an original genuine document is scanned and put in the desired content. Take a print that looks like original signature. But one of the characteristics of any transplanted forgery or traced forgery is that the signatures will have the same mathematical similarities. Both the signatures, when it is put on each other, will have the same length and same width. That is the mathematical similarities. And in both the images, I have purposefully superimposed 2 signatures with slight alignment defects, because if I exactly superimpose a signature, nobody can say there are 2 signatures on that. Okay, for that reason, I have intentionally misaligned the exact superimposition, and you can clearly observe the scaling which is also given in the images. The same mathematical similarities, the same values can be seen in both the images. And this work is not done using any VSC or HSC comparator. No, it is done using simple CorelDRAW application. Yes. On the left side, you can see the highly magnified content of the letter K in the same signature. On the right side, you can find the color stains. As I mentioned, even if the black is the input color, output is not just going to be the black, because black content, which is color printed, will have different color stains, and hence you can find the characteristics of the chemical based blacking versus the toner based black output, toner based color output of the black content. Different color stains, CMYK, will be seen in the output format. This is a cut copy document again, where when the document is seen, you put the signature of some other document on this document, take a print. There's always a generation gap, and when you photocopy the document again, Okay, there is this particular content which looks slightly misaligned from the other content. You can actually suspect this document, but yet give some consideration towards the nature of pen which was used to write the document. Okay, if in case they're using a different color of the ink, it will also appear like this. This shade difference in the content in the photocopy document always doesn't conclude it's a forgery or a fraudulency. It is a red flag by default, and post that subsequent findings has to be reported. Okay. In this case, the question was if the signature of the signature here is forged or not. On the right side top, there is a correction in the date, and yet there is a signature over there. The question by the parties were if the signature above is forged or not. One party claimed no forgery is there, and it is genuinely altered by the signatory because there was an alteration. He signed the signature and gave it to me. But other party claims, no, I have not signed this check at all. So the signature on the top is a forgery. That was the condition. And this is a case where we need to understand that the forensic reports does not favor either of the parties in some situations. In this case, yes, I reported saying the signature is not forgery. There are two alterations in the date entry. One, the numeric 3 was first written as 2003, made as 4. Because of a correction, the person signed the check in 2004. In those days, any correction in the check should actually to be attested with the signature. It was permitted. But these days, any correction is not allowed. That is today's practice. But in those days, it was allowed. Yes, when 3 was made as 4, the person signed his total size signature on the date near to the date. But that entry was further fraudulently altered by the opposite party. He made the 3, which actually was altered as 4, as the numeric 8. And the content of the 8, the left part of the content of the 8, you can clearly see there's a difference in the ink shade. And that ink is a foreign ink. When I say foreign ink, that is not the ink used to write 3 or 4 or any of the content in the date entry. When I found this, I also examined further, because of which I found this. 5,000 was the initial value of the check. When the check was given with the date, which was 2003, made as 2004 and signed. That was only for 5,000 rupees, but the fraudster in 2008 altered the date as 8, added 7 to the 5,000 column, made it look like 75,000, and this entire content of Bhagyamma and 75,000 only, that entire content was blank when the check initially was given. Nobody had to write the complete check. I write my signature, value, and the date. You can write whatever name you want, and you can write the complete wordings by yourself. And that is a practice even today, most of them practice it. But when you look at the ink which was used to alter the numeric 3 to 4 as 8, and the same ink which was used to write 7, and the entire content of Bhagyama 75,000, all these red arrow marks are different ink than that of the green arrow marks. That means in this case, both the parties, the forensic report did not favor both the parties. This case was settled outside the court actually, because none of the parties were true before they came to the court. Okay, in this case, yes, question was about the signature. In most of the cases, as I keep saying, one of the first suspicious factor is the signature only, no doubt. Apart from signature, is there anything else we can report becomes a question. So what you can see on the screen now, see, I reported signature in this case is forged. That is fraudulent. That is first thing over. And what you can see as a magnified image, what you can see, it is a 140x magnification of selected content. Content number 1, which is in red ink, it is the judge marking on the paper. If you look at the paper screeds here, the judge has written in red ink exhibit numbers and signed it. And that red ink which is on the screeds has been taken on the magnified image as a first image. Second thing, the entire content has a witness, a black ink signatory, where my cursor is able to move right now. That is a witness whose signature is in black ink, and even his writing is on the paper screeds. That is taken as a second image. Third, the content, the handwritten content of this document is also with the blue color content and also on the screeds, paper screeds. So wherever the screeds is there and the content on that has been clicked, photographed under high magnification, which you can see. This document was said to be prepared in 1982. This document is dated 1982, but the case was filed in 2004. Effectively speaking, the black ink and blue ink should have been written in 1982, and the judge writing, which is in red ink, should have been written post 2004. But when I find the three inks, which is in red, black, and blue, having the same physical characteristics of the paper, where the ink is not getting inside the paper. The ink is not getting inside the paper because there is a squeeze. That means when you write, the pen skips on the particular squeeze without entering anything inside the squeeze. So this characteristic can only be found on such paper. See, this is a stamp paper. This is not an ordinary GSM stamp paper. Again, stamp papers will have 90 GSM as a thickness by default. And for that paper to have such a squeeze, such strong paper squeeze, should take months together, years together, because of the physical condition of the paper. The squeeze can be found not having any ink content. And while these three content were having the same physical characteristics, I also reported to the court saying that all the three writings are written closer to each other, which means before they filed the case, they have created the whole document. Yes, today the old dated documents, old stamp papers are also available in the black market. That's a different fact. But using that kind of paper, these people have prepared the whole content said to be prepared and signed in 1980s, whereas the case is in 2004, but all the three inks, red, black, and blue, having the same physical characteristics. In addition to signature being forged, this was one of the important facts in the judgment which was held. For all those who think only the handwriting cases or signature cases can be referred to a handling expert, and when there is a printed content like this, how can anybody investigate? So in this kind of cases, there are two aspects. Aspect number one is the forensic linguistics. That is a different topic of discussion. But in this case, while we were able to develop the fingerprints using the Nin-Hydrin method, and this was a case where one of the company used to get a random and very frequent anonymous threatening letters and abuse letters. And because it was frequent, we advised the company guys not to open the new consignment what they're going to get next time. Because of that, this was submitted in the sealed condition to us. Because of that, this case was possible. Otherwise, if people open it, scope of fingerprint examination is going to be limited. And when the person uses the paper to fold it, they usually touch the paper for making a beautiful fold where they usually put the stress on the paper while folding it. There we can find the fingerprints, and because of the fingerprints present on the document, the person was identified to whom it belonged to and who was the person behind sending this kind of anonymous letters. We were able to find based on the content as well as the fingerprint in this case. And hence, not having any writing or signature in a given document is not a limitation for a document examiner. The last case for the day which I'm going to be discussing, yes, we are on time, yes. Yeah, while most of you here don't understand Kannada, I understand, but script of Kannada is not a question in this. But apart from this, is there anything which you can suspect in this case?
So the stamp?
Below
Stamps, which stamp? There are
Stamp, sir.
two visible stamps. Huh?
Sir,
Left side below.
the upper one, sir.
Left side.
The top
The
one, sir.
date mentioned.
Okay, so there are three rubber
The
stamp
top one of
impressions.
9th June.
One is State Treasury, that is the first rubber stamp. Second rubber stamp is the stamp vendor. Third is the court seal, which is partially seen because of the poor clarity in photography. The complete seal is not visible. But in this case, the question was about the Urdu signature in the given in the content. If you can see that, it is also marked Urdu signature. See, if in case I had to write a report on the Urdu signature, first of all, I would require the original document in this case because it's a court document. Even if I write a report on signature, it would actually take 2 years after the involvement of a forensic document examiner. In certain cases, it would take 2 years time just because the forensic handwriting expert is involved in the case. Why? Because the first thing, see, even if I consider the judge is giving one hearing for 1 month. Okay, every month there is going to be a hearing given. The first hearing, the applicant will file an application for sending the document to the expert. Next hearing, the document comes to the examiner's desk. And after that, we would usually be given 1 month time or 2 months time to submit our reports. When we submit the report to the court on the third hearing, the next hearing will be posted for submission of the objections if any of the parties has objections to the report given by the document examiner. So in the next hearing, the respective parties will file the objection. The objection will be heard in the next hearing. And if the objections are on valid grounds, the summons to the document examiner will be issued. And in the 8th hearing, the document examiner will be present before the court for the purpose of chief examination and the cross examination. So if in case the chief examination and cross examination is over on the same day, that's fine. Otherwise, extra dates will be given for further cross examination. After the cross examination is over, the next hearing, the submission or the hearing for the objections on the basis of evidence given by the document examiner. If the person who did the cross examination, he will submit his objections and arguments, while the report given by the document examiner should be or should not be considered as an evidence. And for that arguments, it will be further heard to give the order. Yes, I have heard the arguments, I have heard the objections. Yes, in spite of this, I still consider this as an effective piece of evidence, or because of these reasons, I don't consider this as an effective evidence. So to give this order, it will take 10 months. When I said 10 months, it's almost 1 year to 1.5 years. Okay, and if in case a report is considered as a good piece of evidence, so further final arguments will be there, then the judgment, next 2-3 hearings the case will be over. Or if in case the judge finds this is not a good piece of evidence, then second expert will be appointed and the whole process will repeat for the another time. So if in case in this case I had to give a report on the signature, that will delay for almost 1 year. But what I did in this case is very simple process. The date and the rubber stamp was of attraction to me because the government departments, rubber stamps belonging to the government departments will not usually be seen so fresh and so new. The characters in that particular rubber stamp will actually look faded because of n number of impressions they would have created using such rubber stamp impressions. That's a mechanical device. More and more you use, you can find wear and tear characteristics. And what you can find in this rubber stamp is it appears to be very fresh and very new. That is the first red flag indicator. And going forward, this was sold. Okay, guys, you have to mute your microphone, please.
Sir, your voice.
Okay, so while the question was about the rubber stamp, yes, is there anything suspicious about the rubber stamp? It actually is giving me a good indicator as a red flag. But yet, how can I just conclude on the basis of rubber stamp being fresh and new? That is not going to be sufficient. So when I spent some time in understanding this date I checked with the calendar that this particular date of 9th June 1974 is actually a Sunday. That's the end of the case, because the state government, state Huzurat Treasury, does not sell any of the stamp papers on a Sunday. And this was a costly mistake by the fraudster. They don't remember the date because fraudsters makes mistakes. As a criminal jurisprudence, criminal makes mistakes and forger makes mistakes. So it is on the investigator or the examiner to find what mistake they have committed. So this date of 9th June 1974, all I did in this case was just I filed RTI, Right to Information Act application, to ask for all the transaction details on Sunday in past 50 years. And the government responds to me saying that no such transaction was held on any Sunday. Addition, this document was submitted before the court, and that's the end of the case. Stamp vendor can sell the stamp paper any day of his choice. He is not a government servant. He can sell the paper anytime, any date. But the state government cannot sell the paper on any Sunday. So in this kind of cases, we don't require to conduct even the signature verification, because apart from signature, there are n number of elements in a given document which can actually give you good confidence and lead that the document is being genuine or fraudulent. And let's stop this practice that signature is the very important aspect of an element. Yes, it is one of the important aspect of an element, but it is not the only important aspect of the whole document. So with this, I'm concluding my session for the day. We are actually delayed by 10 minutes. If in case anybody has any questions, we can take up the questions for next 4 to 5 minutes before we wind up officially. Any questions?
Sir, my question is.
Go ahead.
Am I okay? Sir, I was saying my question is, when the document is being forged through trace forgery or the indentation forgery, isn't their indentation mark clearly visible on the back side also? Can
See,
that be?
That depends on the pressure the forger has applied. This principle does not hold good for all the nature of documents. You will be lucky if you are able to see the indentations on the rear side, but in every document you cannot find it, because if in case you consider the check is not a regular GSM, it will be at least 100 GSM paper. So in such thickness of the paper, it's very difficult to find the indentation on the rear side. Use oblique lighting, you'll be able to see the indentation on the front side itself.
Or are there any databases which measure the output of ink from different printers, or usage of a different quality of inks? Does they develop different kind of artifacts too, sir?
Okay, you need to refer one of the research papers of Punjabi University professor Dr. Komal Saini. Okay, she has published a few papers on this particular regard, where based on the color stains on the document, based on the yellow color stains on the document, the manufacturer and the serial number of the printer can be found. So go through the research paper, you will find more information in the paper actually. Yes, there is a possibility, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Next question, please.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was wondering if there is any database for the stamps or the stamp papers which has been manufactured in India, so that can be used as a database for further examinations of the previous examinations.
See, database is available by the security press at what is that? In Maharashtra, Nashik. Okay, so you find the database. If you submit a stamp paper to the security press at Nashik, they will be able to give you a confirmation as to which period this stamp paper was printed. However, the stamp papers will not have the date on which it was printed. Okay, it will only have the date on which it was issued by the government department to the usage. But for the printing on the stamp paper, you will not have the date. I am talking about the treasury stamp papers of the olden days. I am not talking about the e-stamp papers which we are using it these days. Okay, and that
Okay, sir.
sequence of printing and the printing pattern can be accessed by the Nashik Security Press. You will find the information there, but it is not available by any other authority so far.
Okay, so I was also asking about the stamp seals which we put on the stamp paper, sir. Just like we saw a case right now. So, is there a database for that also? No.
Unfortunately, I have not seen such database by any government departments because what I have only seen is that अरे यार rubber stamp खराब हो चुका है दूसरा मंगवा दो बस. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
when they started using a new rubber stamp, a few departments has a log for this, but most of the
Okay.
departments do not have a log for this. Okay, and in this kind of
Yes, sir.
cases, the reference for investigation becomes those documents which are known and signed in those period only. It is difficult to get, but if you get it, you will be lucky. And fortunately,
sir.
at our laboratory, okay, we have been working on this particular project, and we have a database of all the rubber stamp vendors, deed writers, stamp vendors, the rubber stamp seals, how it appears on respective authorities. We have a library for that at our laboratory, and it is essential
Okay, sir.
for a professional of document examination should to have one database from his side.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. That was so thoughtful. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Any other questions? Fine. So I do not see any questions coming up further to this. So with this, it's time for us to conclude our session for the day. I believe on a Sunday evening, most of us here have made our time to participate in this session. And yet, this was a topic specific discussion because only those who are involved in document examination or who want to involve themselves in document examination have chosen to attend this particular session. I'm very happy for that. And yet for certain different reasons, as a learning part of it, I was able to show and demonstrate very few cases. But as and when the time permits in future, probably we'll schedule different sessions to discuss more number of cases. So with this, I thank you all for joining us. And the participation certificate of these sessions can be applied from our website where you registered yourself. There's a separate link for applying for certificate of participation, and certificate of participation certificate is issued with a donation towards the organization's research and development fund. Okay, the knowledge education is free, but for people to use the certificate for any other purpose, we request for a small token of a donation, where this donation will be utilized for activities like what we are involved today. Because I'll be very happy to involve my organization's funds for various research activities conducted by several students outside. So you can always get back to us for any kind of research funds in future. These funds will be utilized for that. And second thing, we have our upcoming workshop on signatures forgery examination on Saturday and Sunday. Please refer to proofforevidence.org and workshops. You can find all the details about the upcoming workshops. And the coming weekend, not the 9th and 10th, the next weekend, we have a scheduled workshop on lie detection and investigation techniques. So people who are interested can enroll for that, because we are offering such workshops and sessions which are not usually offered by any people outside. These are the rare topics of discussion. So you can always choose to participate in the workshops and webinars with us. So with this, please follow our Facebook page, Clue for Evidence Foundation NGO Facebook page, and we'll meet up very soon for the upcoming webinar series. Thank you all. Have a good day.